Are you addicted to brain rot and can't seem to focus on your goals? Oh, sorry, let me translate that for my brain-rotted audience. Chat, is your brain cooked? Are you trying to be a Riz-maxed Sigma male, but instead you're just some beta addicted to doom-scrolling reels on the toilet? Bet. This video is for you, because today we're going to be talking about the psychology of brain rot. We're going to talk about how brain rot hacks your attention, which explains why it's so successful on social media, and then we're going to talk about what the science has to say about whether it's actually rotting your brain. Let's get into it. So if you're new here, my name's Pete Judo. I'm an applied behavioral scientist. I have been for the last 6 years. Over that time, I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, including major banks and Coca-Cola, just to name a few. I also used to work for Rory Sutherland, who many of you will know. So to understand the psychology of brain rot, you really just need to understand habits. Because our addiction to brain rot content on Reels, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, is actually just a very strong habit. So a habit is just a mental shortcut that associates three things together. You have a context, which is a familiar situation that you're in. You have an action, something that you do in that situation, and then there's a reward, some kind of payoff for doing the action that you did. And through repetition, which is repeatedly experiencing these three things at the same time or in quick succession to each other, your brain forms a very strong connection between those things to the point where whenever you are in that context, in that situation, you think to do that action in anticipation of the reward. So before we get into how this applies to brain rot, let's just start with an example from outside of social media. So the one I usually like to give is walking into the kitchen and opening the fridge door, right? How many of you do this behavior even when you're not particularly hungry or you're not even sure what you're looking for in the fridge? It's very common. And so let's break it down by the different components. What's the context? Walking into the kitchen. It's a familiar situation that you're often in. The action, opening the fridge door. And the reward, oftentimes, is some kind of food or drink which is pleasurable, which is enjoyable. And so through repetition, every time you are in the kitchen and you open the fridge and you oftentimes will have some kind of nice bit of food to eat, you are being rewarded for that sequence of behavior. And so it gets to a point where that behavior becomes automatic, so that even when you are not particularly in the mood for any kind of food or drink, you still walk into the kitchen and open the fridge door automatically. That automatic behavior is a habit. And the reason why I love this example is because it is so similar to the original studies on habits and behaviorism, which was done by a very famous psychologist called B.F. Skinner. So B.F. Skinner used to put pigeons in boxes, and he would be able to train pigeons to develop habits based off all kinds of different contexts. So for example, he'd put a pigeon in a box and there would be a light in the box, and through repeated association, he would be able to teach that pigeon that when the light is on, the pigeon should peck at this little plastic disc and some food would be dispensed. Context, light, action, peck at the disc, reward, the little bit of food. And it's literally so similar to the example of going into the kitchen, right? So what that shows us is that while of course we human beings are much smarter than pigeons, the way that we form our habits and our habitual behaviors actually form through very similar mechanisms. We simply repeat what we've been rewarded for in the past. But the interesting thing about social media habits, though, is that the context, the situation that triggers the habit, is actually not a physical location or anything that is observable with your eyes. Instead, it's an emotional context. And so there's been a lot of research that looks into this. Like, what is the thing that cues people to take out their phone and start scrolling? And the most consistent thing that we find is boredom. People are just a little bit bored and they learn that when I am bored, I should reach for my phone and start scrolling. And it helps to relieve that little bit of boredom, that little bit of discomfort. And so the reason why social media habits feel like addictions and why they're so powerful is because you can be bored basically anywhere, right? It doesn't matter what location you're in or who else is around you. Whenever you're just a little bit bored, you can always reach for your phone, which is always on you. And so the habit follows you around in all situations. That is one reason why social media habits in general are very powerful. But the interesting thing about brain rot content is what it teaches us about the reward component of developing a habit. Real quick, this video does not have an external sponsor. Instead, I am choosing to sponsor myself. Let me explain. If you're struggling with doom scrolling and spending all evening on your phone and you feel like you have lost control to social media, then one of the best ways to break that bad habit is to do something called habit substitution. So rather than trying to overcome that bad habit through sheer willpower, instead, habit substitution is when you keep the same context, the same situation, but you swap your bad behavior for a healthier one. So when it comes to the bad habit of doom scrolling, my wife and I found that actually the best substitution is needlepoint. If you haven't heard of needlepoint before, it's a kind of needlecraft similar to cross stitch, but easier in our opinion. And the great thing about it is that it occupies your hands, so you literally can't doom scroll while you do it. But because it's this tactile, repetitive motion, it's actually a very relaxing hobby to do and feels kind of therapeutic. And so at the end of an evening of doing needlepoint, rather than feeling guilty like you would if you were just doom scrolling on your phone, instead you feel calm, relaxed, and productive because at the end of the evening you've stitched this beautiful piece of homemade art as opposed to wasting time on your phone. So we love needlepoint so much that we actually started a needlepoint company. We sell needlepoint kits designed for complete beginners. It comes with absolutely everything you need to complete your canvas, no extra shopping needed. And not only are they great for you, but they also make fantastic gifts. Because we're a small company, literally just me and my wife, our stock is genuinely very limited. We only have about 20 of each design left. So if you want to get your hands on one, be sure to get your order in while stocks last. It's the top link in the description or in the pinned comment below. We're called Koi Pond Studio. Thank you guys so much. And let's get back to the video. Okay, so we've explained the basic structure of how social media habits work. And what's interesting is that I actually made a video very similar to this one 5 years ago called The Addictive Psychology of TikTok Explained, where I talk about a lot of the same kinds of concepts. But since I made that video over 5 years ago, there has just been this exponential explosion of brain rot content flooding our algorithms, flooding our feeds. And what is interesting about that is what it teaches us about reward. So previously, when I talked about social media rewards, I explained that the reason why they're so powerful is because they are uncertain variable rewards. So this is one of the most powerful findings in all of behaviorism and habit psychology in general, which is that uncertain rewards are much more reinforcing compared to certain rewards. And the example that's typically given is actually gambling. So if you think about going to a fruit machine, like in Las Vegas, you crank the handle and the wheel starts spinning, and the reward, the payoff of doing that behavior is uncertain. That uncertainty is actually what makes gambling so addictive. You crank the handle, you don't know what's going to happen. So then when the payoff does happen, it's like a huge amount of dopamine that you get. It's incredibly reinforcing.
There! Yeah! Let's go!
Now, social media actually operates in a very similar way. Every time that you swipe, it is akin to cranking the handle of a fruit machine. You are swiping in anticipation of some kind of reward, but you don't know how good the reward will be. You don't know what the next video is going to be like. Sometimes it's a really interesting video, like this one, and sometimes it's a really boring video. And what's interesting about brain rot is that it seems to occupy that mildly interesting layer that is actually important and a feature of what makes social media so addictive. So sometimes we have very rewarding videos for the people who put a lot of effort into their content, and then sometimes you have very mildly interesting videos that are not that rewarding, but they are slightly rewarding. And what we've learned from brain rot, which is actually kind of a depressing realization to come to, is that the bar for a rewarding video is incredibly low. All we need is like something that is mildly visually interesting, mildly amusing, maybe just like a familiar face or character, and that is enough for just a little bit of dopamine to be released in the brain in order for that behavior to become reinforced. So if all we saw in our algorithms was this mildly interesting brain rot content, it probably wouldn't be as successful as it is. But because it is mixed in with these higher effort, more rewarding videos, it means that the payoff of scrolling on social media is uncertain. And so this brain rot content is able to succeed because it is in this mixed environment. And of course, the other thing that makes short form videos and brain rot content so powerful when it comes to developing and strengthening the habit is the fact that the videos are so short. Oftentimes these videos are just a few seconds long, which means that in one session, you can get hundreds of repetitions in. Compare that to, say, building a healthy habit like going to the gym. How many times would you have to go to the gym in order to develop hundreds of repetitions? We're talking years in order to get that level of repetition, but with TikTok and with short form brain rot content, you're able to get that number of repetitions in one session. And so the behavior is incredibly reinforcing in a very short period of time. Okay, so understanding habits can explain why low quality brain rot content is able to succeed on social media and why so many people watch it. But what does the science actually have to say about whether that kind of low quality content is indeed rotting our brain? The narrative that is often talked about with brain rot is that it is lowering our attention spans, it is lowering our ability to focus, and is actually just making us dumber. Is that really true? Well, when I was doing research for this video, the evidence out there was actually very thin. There's just not a lot of research on this topic right now. In fact, the biggest study that we have right now is this one from Nguyen et al. So what they found was that short form video usage was associated with lower attention spans, lower impulse control, higher anxiety, higher stress. But that is just an association, a correlation. And as anyone who has done an introduction to statistics class will know, correlation does not equal causation. So what that means is that we don't yet have great experimental evidence that demonstrates a causality. So we don't yet know whether short form content is what causes lower attention spans, higher stress, higher anxiety, or whether it's the other way around, that people who already have lower attention spans, higher stress and higher anxiety end up watching more short form content. And of course, these studies are just looking at short form content. They're not yet teasing apart the difference between high quality short form content versus brain rot, this kind of thing. And so basically the evidence out there isn't great. That doesn't mean that there isn't a causal link there, it just hasn't been researched yet. In order for this to be tested properly, you'd want scientists to conduct what's called a randomized control trial. So that means you'd have two different groups that are randomly assigned. With one group, you would deliberately expose them to a prescription of brain rot content for a period of time, and then the other group you would keep them as the control, so you wouldn't prescribe that brain rot content for them. And then you would basically test these different measures at the start and then at the end of the study, and then maybe later down the line as well, to see whether those two groups differ in their levels of anxiety, stress, attention, and impulse control. But given the prevalence of this content on our algorithms, which has only been accelerated massively by the development of AI, I think that this topic is really pertinent and needs to be studied more. There's a lot of people out there, especially young people out there, who feel like they are wasting their youth away on these algorithms, watching brain rot content, and they're unable to concentrate on their goals. And we need good scientific evidence that looks into this so that we can make good decisions about how best to safeguard the next generation. So that's all for today's video. Hopefully you learned something about the psychology of brain rot. If you made it this far in the video, I just want to say a huge thank you for sticking around. I've been pretty on and off YouTube for the past year, partly for health reasons and partly because I wanted to focus on upskilling for my day job, for my career. But I'm really excited to be making content for you guys again, and I'm really excited to talk more about this topic of brain rot, doom scrolling, how AI is affecting those things and it's affecting our daily behaviors and hobbies. So if you're interested in seeing more videos like this one, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.